Hey neighbors, it's Sharon from Grace's Neighbor Sharon, and this video is part of the What Would You Make playlist. Creators can choose their own theme, so I chose spring, Easter, used some bunnies, and a little bit more color than I normally do. I hope you enjoy what I put together. I'll give you a little bit more information later on in the video. For now, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Okay, project number 1 is paper making. I thought I would show you how I make the paper that I use in this video. Let's make the paper, and step 1 is to make the pulp. This is out of my shredder. And then also some papers from some bills that had most of the page was blank. I tried not to put in a lot of paper that had text on it because that's going to make things gray because the color will bleed. So I also did some shipping paper in there. So 3 different kinds of paper that I'm going to recycle. And then I think, I don't know how many cups it is. So basically this is like a salad bowl. And by filling this bowl full gives me like a good batch of paper. Usually I was doing half a bowl, and that was 10, so I'm hoping to get at least 20 pages out of this. I like to hand scoop that pulp in. It's been sitting overnight, and just enough water to cover it, only because that water is kind of gray, and I'm really wanting this batch to be more white than usual. And I'm just going to keep checking it and pulsing it because I'm going to add colors in between. So I went through my little mica powder. I shouldn't say little, it's a big box of mica powder. And I just pulled out all the ones that were white or shiny. This one is lilac white. And I'm going to tap in a little of the mica powder and then blend it, and then toss in some more and blend it. And I'll just let you listen here for a minute. So that was a thumbs up or good, and okay, let's continue. I wanted to put a couple pinches of cornstarch into the pulp because all the reading I've done and all the videos I've watched, that's recommended if you don't have paper making additives. Cornstarch is a good additive to help keep your paper together and make it less porous. Now I'm doing the second step, which is the dip, drip, and flip. You'll notice I removed the top frame, that's the decal, and then flip the bottom frame over, that's the mold. We're going to sponge it through the screen, absorb as much water as we can, and then slowly remove that screened frame. And I'm going to start adding, I think they call this confetti. This actually came with the paper making kit and I haven't used it yet. And so I'm just adding the little circles by hand. I guess big confetti. There I'm removing the decal. And then I'm going to flip the mold over. And so I know that those colors are going to be in there because I sort of like pushed them down as I was placing them. So again, sponging up the excess water and flipping it. Now after a while, I got tired of adding the little polka dot confetti pieces by hand, and I actually just took a handful and added them to the pulp. I don't show that, but I mean, I like how it looks when they're purposefully placed, but it was just taking a long time. So I did a couple, just placing them randomly, and then it actually worked pretty good when I just added it to the actual pulp. See, and you see I just keep flipping it, sponging it, and then removing the screen. And that's our dip, drip, and flip. And then of course the third step will be dry. This is what they look like the next day. And I really believe that the cornstarch made a difference because these pieces that I showed you there, they were very thin and hard to come up, but they stay together. Now I'll pull up the rest of these papers and we'll get to crafting. Okay, project number 2. I call this project the Blue Hop. My last video, you may remember I had Hip and Hop, but I only have one bunny this time, so it's just hop. And I changed my mind about the word. I'll point that out to you. But that little bunny was just sitting on my desk. I think it fell out of a box or, you know, it ended up on the floor when I was looking through things. So I'm like, yeah, I need a bunny shape for my spring projects. So I'm like, I'm going to make that little bunny into its own project. I end up not liking that blue, and I do change that, but I wanted some color because the deckled edges of my paper don't go all the way to the edge. And of course, I ended up not liking that either. So I'll show you how I change it. I only did the edges with Mod Podge. This paper soaks up a lot of the Mod Podge and the glue, so I didn't think it was necessary to do the whole thing. And I'm just cleaning it up. Those HOP letters, I just used a foam dabber and my favorite blue. And then I also just glued the bunny on there as well. This is my dry fit. So I think I'm using wood glue to get these letters on, and I'm using wood glue because I wanted a little bit of time to wiggle it around because I wasn't exactly sure how much space to put in between the letters. So I knew if I got all 3 letters down and didn't like it, I could sort of wiggle it around until I did. Now you notice that I did put a lighter color on the edge and I still wasn't happy with how it looked. So this is like a scrap of rope that came off some nautical rope from the Dollar Tree, and I untwisted it. So I made 3 pieces of wavy rope, and I like the wave on the rope. So I'm not going to glue it down really tight and in a straight line. I'm just going to glue like dabs so that the rope still looks wavy, and I really like that. This is the ribbon I chose. I'm making the awareness shape. Then I'll scrunch it in the middle, and then keeping it scrunched, I'll wrap some twine around it. I usually do it like 2 or 3 times and then tie a really tight double knot in the back. But I'll make sure I like the size of the bow before I tie that knot. And then I'm actually using wood glue on the bow too. I think maybe I was worried about just using hot glue on the recycled paper, so I went ahead and used the wood glue and the hot glue. And I think it looks fantastic. I'm super happy with how this came out. I'm glad I changed my mind about those things, and I'll give you a good look at this during the final reveal. Hey neighbors, it's Sharon again, jumping in with a little bit more information about the playlist. It happens every month. There's never a theme, it's just use wood. Our hosts are Brenda from Rustic and Lace DIY, Christine from Divine Designs, and then our guest host this month is Kathy Jo from Kathy Jo DIYs. Their channel links and a link to the playlist will be in my description box below. I hope you enjoy what I put together. Let's get back to the video. Okay, project number 3. I call this project a spring flower. Now, I'm going to go on record saying I'm not 100% happy with how this came out, but it looks okay. I wish I had put the paper on the whole flower, but what I did, and you'll see here in a minute, I left it blank for the letters that spell the word spring, and I wish I had just put the paper down and put the letters on the paper, because I ended up with a lot of space on the bottom and I had to put flowers on it, and I hadn't really planned to put flowers on it. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I did for this one. I'm trying to use up all my wood letters, and so I didn't have any more of the kind that I used in the 2 previous projects, so I'm using these great big huge ones. I mean, they seem huge to me. And I had to make a letter N out of like a Z turned sideways and some other part of some other letter. But by the time I glue it together and get the paint on it, you can't really tell. So each letter has its own sort of pastel-y color, and that's because I was trying to mimic the confetti polka dots there in the page that I chose to use. And I figured you might want to see me painting all the letters, so I left it all in. If not, then I apologize. So that was like an orange, a spring green, a regular blue, a regular yellow, and then this is a turquoise. I wish there was a little bit more difference between the turquoise and the green, but I think it looks okay. And then the pink is very light, but I still like it. I was going for pastel colors. So let's get some pink on that letter G there. And then my paints, some of them were hard to get paint on because they're drying up so much, because I've had them for like 3 years at least. So it might be time to invest in some plaid products. And I am a plaid ambassador, so that's something I should really get done. So I really like this page. I think this is one of the ones that I put the pieces on by hand. And I Mod Podged the whole page this time because I sort of wanted to be able to cut it and sand it and everything. And then I didn't show it, but I glued the letters, and I did them kind of wonky because they were barely going to fit if I did them straight. So I figured let's make them wonky, and it gives us a little bit more room. And I had to use 2 sheets of paper to cover this whole flower. And it's very easy to cut. I probably could have just torn it with my fingers. Now you see how there's some extra room there? That's what was making me crazy. I'm going to go ahead and sand the edges, and the recycled paper edges are very easy to sand. And so I'm just kind of doing it nice and slow. No need to rush. And I know people might say, why don't you use an emery board or nail file? There's something about using them for sanding that just gives me the heebie-jeebies. So I like my sandpaper. But thank you for those that did recommend it. I've seen lots of other crafters use it. It's just not for me. Okay, and I'm sorry I kept so much of that in. Okay, so now I'm like, well, I got to do something here. I wanted to make a pocket, put flowers in the pocket, but the shape of the flower just wasn't working for that. So I'm like, I'm going to do a swag on the bottom instead of the top. I don't usually do that because I'm not like 100% happy with how it looks, even when it's intentional. But, you know, I had to do something here. So I'm like creating on the fly. Also, I don't even know where that roll of green baker's twine is, but I had a scrap piece and I thought that would look nice on the edges. And so I used that hot glue on the edges to just lightly tap the string into it, or lay the string down into it, I should say. And these are some flowers. As you know, I'm a stash crafter, or as you may not have known, I'm a stash crafter. And so I buy things and just put them in my stash, not knowing when I'm going to use them or how. So these were in my stash, and I liked the pink, but I also want a little bit of color variation. So I used 2 different flowers to make my little swag. And I think I just glued, I think I glued it with some leaves or something. I don't think I used some twine for this one. But you saw how I did the awareness shape bow in the last project, and I did the same for this one. It's just a scrap, something that came in a kit like years ago, and I just held on to it. Now, originally this had just a single hanging rope, but I want a loop. I'm just going to glue down the knots that I created and then lay down a piece of small scrap of ribbon across it just for some added security. And that's pretty much done. I'll give you a better look at it during the final reveal. Okay, our 4th and final project is a spring bunny couple. This one's kind of funny. I wanted to make it kind of crafty and simple and easy looking. So I hope it serves as inspiration, because I can just think of so many other ways you could do a similar project. So let me show you what I did. I'm going to cover the frame because I like that color and I don't really want to mess with it. And I know if you get paint on it, it's hard to get it off. So I covered it up. Now, this is going to be covered by paper, but I decided to put on a little bit of this linen chalk paint. And I'm also going to put paper around that frame on the bottom. So not inside the frame, but around the edges I cut little strips. And I guess I'm going to paint that too. I think I was just really worried about getting it dirty. Now here's my little egg bunnies. I got a package of pink and a package of white, and then the little backs to them have a little nubby for their tail. They're really cute. I want to make them into a garland. I don't know if I'll get around to it in my next project, but that was what I bought them for. But then, you know, when I saw that particular frame there that I'm using in this, I was like, oh, I could put the bunnies in the frame like they're the star of the show. So that was what I was thinking. I might have done this out of order, but these are, oh no, this is the spring letters from the first project that I ended up not using. I had them set out, but I ended up using hop instead. So these are the letters that I didn't use. And I'm just going to paint these little guys. Yes, they are totally fine on their own and they're very cute, but I wanted them to have a crafty look. So I added some baking soda to the pink, you noticed, and then chalk paint is nice and thick already, so I just painted that on. And then I took another bunny, another pink bunny, another white bunny, and I copied the face. And it's obviously going to be a little bit bigger because I can't make it that small, but I'm using my paint markers. I use Funsel's paint markers because they actually had me do some reviews on, quite a few of their projects. And one of them was the markers. And it lasted for years, and then I just recently got some new ones. But I also did like watercolor paints and dot markers. It's a really cool company. If you look them up on Amazon, you'll see all the different things they make. So I used the dabber on those letters, and I used the markers on those faces. And I had trouble with the eyes, and I kept coming back to it, but then finally I was happy with how it came out. That is some, I guess you call it scrapbook paper. I bought it off Amazon, and it's one of the things that sort of triggered me into making my own paper. I just loved how it was packaged and the look of it, and just reminded me of like a little batch of homemade paper that people might get and use for scrapbooking or crafting. So that was kind of the beginning of my paper making. So I hadn't used any, and I finally used it on this one, and I really like the look of this, almost like a web or a fishing net or something. So I put that down. It's a frame, and you put the picture in from the back, but it's just like a piece of heavy plastic. So I Mod Podged the plastic and put it right down on it. Now I'm using my homemade paper here, and I love the little pink polka dot confetti, and I'm going to hot glue just the ears because they're flush with the outside edge, so that's going to keep them down. And I'm not at all worried, and I'm not going to use any other kind of glue like I normally do, and they are fine just like that. The word spring fits nicely, so I just used my hot glue to get them down there. I did the S and the G first. My G is a little bit higher, but I just left it. I didn't want to mess around with it. It's not super noticeable. Now this little swag actually I end up gluing it together using a leaf. I glued a leaf onto one of them, and I'm like, well, why don't I just scoot the other stem in there and add some more glue, and then I don't have to wrap any twine around it. So that's what I did. And then I just had to hot glue the leaf part onto the paper. I'm just going to make a quick shoelace bow here and hot glue it down and reveal how it looks with the frame, and better look in the final reveal.